Hey train fans, welcome back to my Rockwall Canyon Railroad. In this video we're going to show the return to operation of Boston and Maine number 205, the modification of a USA Train streamlined passenger car, and we're going to welcome 3 new cars to the Rockwall Canyon Railroad. So let's start off with Boston and Maine number 205. This locomotive was used last month on a rather long freight train. I had a few buddies over from the New Hampshire Garden Railway Society, and we ran some nice long freight trains, and for whatever reason this engine just all of a sudden stopped going forward. You'll notice that it just went by in this video from that day running in reverse, because that's all that it would do. It wouldn't go forward anymore. Well, CVP stood by their product, and they were able to take back the Airwire receiver, and they made a repair for a very reasonable price and sent it back to me. It was returned very quickly to me, and to be honest, it made me feel really good about working with CVP in the future. And I do have several other engines, including the chassis engine in this consist, that had the exact same receiver board installed at the same time, and I've had no issues with that. And so now with our repaired receiver installed, we're underway here with a short excursion train off to pick up some new equipment for the Rockwall Canyon Railroad. Thought we'd make a thing of it and invite some guests along, so that's why we have the passenger coaches with us. And so with our excursion underway, I thought it'd be a good time to talk about these passenger cars and some of the modifications that I'm trying to do with these cars. The Carroll P. Reed car in question here is actually based off a prototype of a Canadian National car, one of the Super Continental cars. So now the length and the car body proportions are all really good for that prototype. However, the actual car does not have skirting, at least not in the middle section. So I decided I would try to remove the skirting on one of these cars. So what you'll see next is a photo of that undertaking. And the result, as you can see, is that you can now see more of the undercar details, the battery boxes and tanks and so forth. And I feel it kind of adds a little length to the car as well. So here's a composite view to further inspect whether it was worth it or not. And so I thought I'd also give you an explanation how I did this. Now I do have another friend who has successfully removed the skirting from these cars using a grinder. The cars are aluminum, so I haven't had really good luck grinding the aluminum. It's really kind of a nasty slog to get through. I think ideally a bandsaw would be best, but you're kind of having to go through it at an angle, and I worry about the blade walking and kind of cutting through. So the next best thing I could find was this Dremel tool, which is basically the same kind of blade that you would have on a hacksaw, but it just reciprocates back and forth. And that really worked out really well. So working along the bottom edge, sort of perpendicular to the car, you take approximately 1.5 inch chunks out. So you'll have to make a horizontal cut and then a vertical cut and remove the chunk and then move on to the next piece. And you just kind of, work your way through to get all the way across the skirting. Now there's a fair amount of undercar detailing that can be removed before you attempt this. All these little battery boxes and tanks, they're all actually just glued in. And of course you'll want to remove the trucks and protect the paint job. Actually, that's another reason why I did it this way. My cars are actually vinyl wrapped, and I wanted to protect that the paint job, and I didn't want to disturb the end caps or anything like that. So that's kind of why I went about it in this manner. So being that we're taking off chunks as we go along the car body, you're obviously going to do some sanding afterwards, but you can try to limit the amount of off-course cutting by trying to at least clamp on a bar or something like this. I have a ruler that I'm using to kind of keep the line straight, and even just a piece of masking tape or something will allow you to kind of work your way down the line. It's the tool is actually really controllable. You're not going to really go off track too quickly like you would with perhaps a scroll saw or something like that. You have a surprising amount of control with this tool. So anyhow, the tool that I'm using is the Dremel Multimax. It's I guess they're referred to as a flush cut reciprocating saw. And the actual saw blade inside it is the stock bimetal. Essentially, it's like a hacksaw blade almost. That's a metal cutting or wood cutting blade. And they also have a carbide blade that I tried, but it turned out to be quite a bit thicker, and I found that that didn't work as well for this use. It just made a lot of vibration. So as you can see, we're moving on now to go pick up our new freight cars down at St. Patrick's at the interchange. And that's something I'm kind of working on down at that area, is sort of I guess a faux interchange setup. I'm going to try to put some tracks out there to kind of simulate having a junction with another railroad. Perhaps it'll terminate in a tunnel or something like that. I haven't quite finished what my plans are for down there, but as the video progresses, we'll be sure to make note of that as it comes up. So with our excursion train parked here at the junction here at St. Patrick's, you can see a short little freight train coming down what will be the interchange track. This is our Chessie GP38, and following right behind it are our new freight cars. So I thought it would be a good idea to uncouple our locomotives here for a bit and see if we can test out the MU capabilities of our Boston to Maine 205, make sure that we can still lash up with other engines and make sure that everything is, properly speed matched and so forth. Of course, I was worried that perhaps the reason why that receiver board had failed was maybe because the engines were not properly speed matched, but it turned out that that was not the case. So for the benefit of our onboard guests, we decided to lash up the engines here and couple onto those coaches right up front, and then pass by the new freight cars so that everyone can get a good inspection of them as they went by. So now our crew is making the hitch here on those new cars, and then we'll be hauling them back to Rockwall Canyon where they can be properly looked over by Rockwall Canyon mechanical staff, of course. So first up, we have an LGB center flow hopper in the Sclair DuPont Plastics paint scheme. And I've actually been looking for one of these for a long time, and this one came up on eBay recently, and it already had the Bachmann or Aristocraft roller bearing trucks, and even had KD couplers already installed, body mounted. So can't beat that. And next up we have this USA Trains American Series center beam lumber car, and that was actually given to me by one of my fellow New Hampshire Garden Railway Society members at our last open house on the railroad this summer. And so thank you very much, Chuck, for that car. Really appreciate it. I've had the chance to swap out the trucks with LGB roller bearing trucks to kind of modernize it a little bit, and also put some KD couplers on there just to match my other cars. So really excited to have that one on the team as well. And last but not least, we have an LGB modern tank car. My railroad tends to be a little on the older side of the prototype timeline, so I went with the Pennsylvania road scheme and backdated it a little bit with some older style trucks. It's probably not all that prototypical, but I really like the car, and I like that paint scheme. It looks really, really sharp in that Pennsylvania scheme there. Now, that being the case, it is, I suppose, a bit contradictory that I've installed these KD tank car couplers at the top and bottom shelf. It's a very modern but very cool detail that I just couldn't avoid having to install in these cars. And I find that they actually really do work well to avoid breakaways. And some of my long passenger cars, I've actually started installing them on the head pin. I find it works especially well if you have a shorter locomotive, like GP7, or even a Alco switcher or something like that, hauling those long passenger cars. If you get an uneven track, very often those cars will just unhitch on you unexpectedly. So this prevents that from happening. Not totally foolproof, but it's an improvement for sure. So as it's now November, we're getting into that time of year where the leaves are all down and you can start to see the sky a little bit more. And I've been playing around with some videography to try to incorporate the trains with the view of the sky a little bit more, because it does kind of seem to put the trains in a little better position here. So with our freight train brought up to Rockwall Canyon, I then decided to disconnect our locomotives and bracket them around the passenger cars. I was still a little concerned that the engines might not be running at the same speed rate. So separating them a little bit with these cars to see how they behave was kind of useful for that. Every now and then I would test to see how they were doing, and they actually really perform very consistently. So here we are down in St. Patrick's again, and I mentioned earlier about our interchange area, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. So the loop at St. Patrick's is off to the left, but I've been kind of digging away at this area with my tractor to try to level things out a little bit. And so the plan is to have a little bit of industry back there, and really like to have like a tunnel portal. I've had some friends come over and bring trains along, and they'd like to kind of have a place to kind of start the narrative of, you know, how their trains arrived at the Rockwall Canyon, and this would kind of allow that, I guess, storyline to work out by having an actual junction for them to arrive on. So that's the plan for now, and our little short excursion train is heading back up to Rockwall Canyon from whence it came, and that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed the episode. I'm Rocky Canyon Arrow. That's how we do trains around here.